Welcome, dear friends, and thank you again for following along. If you're listening to the recording of our weekly now consideration of ideas, ideals, and illusion, and integrating knowledge, love, and sacrifice, each of us in our own way and in our groups. As we look at the rules of thought today, we will look at rules 1 through 15 as an entirety and the rules of action. Today, beginning with rules 1 and 2 of the rules of action. So we pause and take a moment to just breathe into our own being and that point of alignment. Alignment with our own soul being to the extent that we can. Align with the group. And then breathe into what I call the breath of divinity, that which we breathe as sparks of life within the planetary being, and connect all of the bodies to the extent that we can into this great network. That we may know and live the highest thoughts.
We are, my brothers and sisters, living in a time of spiritual crisis. When a human crisis and a spiritual crisis coincide, there comes one of the major periods of opportunity and decision in general human affairs. Hence, the extreme gravity of the present moment. All I, Master DK, can do is to call it to your attention. It is for you to watch and interpret current events. And it is for you to note the expression of the precipitating and penetrating energies in order to cooperate as far as your insight permits, and thus further the right production of the required effects. Through the etheric body circulates energy emanating from some mind. With humanity in the mass, response is made unconsciously to the rulings of the universal mind. This is complicated in our time and age by a growing responsiveness to the mass ideas, called sometimes public opinion, of the rapidly evolving human mentality. Within the human family are also found those who respond to that inner group of thinkers who, working in mental matter, control from the subjective side of life the emergence of the great plan and the manifestation of divine purpose. And just to remind ourselves as a group contemplating the rules of thought and the rules of action, rules are different from laws or orders. They are the result of tried experience and of age-long undertakings, and assuming neither the form of laws nor the limitations of a command, they are recognized by those for whom they exist, and hence evoke from them a prompt intuitive response. They need no enforcement, but are voluntarily accepted, and are put to trial in the belief that the witness of the past and the testimony of the ages warrant the effort required for the expressed requirements. With increasing indifference to the Maya of the etheric physical plane as service, we move gradually to a point of identification with the soul of all, eventually achieving divine indifference. It is divine indifference which is responsible for the fact that in attempting to describe pure being or God, and in the effort to arrive at some understanding of the nature of divinity, the formula of negation has been evolved. I have a body. I am not my body. I have emotions. I am not my emotions. I have thoughts. I am not my thoughts. Our aim is to embody spiritual discernment, practice positive harmlessness, and eventually achieve a state of divine indifference as we dispel illusion, dissipate glamours, devitalize Maya in all our relationships. Let us enter into an even deeper alignment with the group soul as we move forward together by sounding as if the united group soul I am the soul, as if one soul. I am light divine, as if the embodiment of light divine. I am love, as if one loving expression. I am will, as if the will of the soul. I am fixed design, as if the unified design for the fulfillment of the purpose. We align and orient to the subjective livingness of the ashram. We align within the ashrams of the masters in Scorpio, this point of testing for humanity, knowing an ashram is a place of quietly confident, regulated effort. The plan and the immediate service activity are known, and disciples and initiates, each aware of his task and equipment, proceed to carry out the phase of the one work which is theirs. Each senses its relationship to the phases of the work undertaken by his group brothers. It is in learning to see the picture whole, as the master ever sees it, that confidence and security are developed. We silently connect into the great web of light, illuminating the jewel in the lotus, the central vessel, the spark of the presence and the crown of the group. Sounding Om Mani Padme Hum. We are points of light within a greater light. We are strands of loving energy within the stream of love divine. We are points of sacrificial fire, focused within the fiery will of God. And thus we stand. We are a way by which humanity may achieve. We are a source of strength, enabling all to stand. We are beams of light shining upon their way. And thus we stand. And standing thus, revolve and tread this way the ways of all humanity, and know the ways of God. And thus we stand. We strive for indifference, as it leads us to right illumination, which is another name or aspect of right direction, as this will take the place of glamour, and the objective, personally considered, of the group of disciples, utilizing the techniques of indifference, light, and the presence, is to bring light into dark places and illumination into their lives. We stand in unison, serving under the law of abstraction, and blend the lights of matter and of mind to fuse and blend with soul light. The act of abstraction produces the dispelling of the illusory world of thoughts. The withdrawal of the divine attention dissipates the sentient universe and brings glamour to an end. The cessation of divine direction brings death to the physical world. All these activities are evidence of the will, or of the first aspect, the will to good, which can and will function in perfection only when goodwill is finally and fully developed on earth through the agency of humanity. The will and the breath, my brother, are occultly synonymous terms. In this statement, you have the clue to the ending of Maya. Today we begin our focus on the 15 rules of thought as an entirety, and consider these in relation to the first two rules of action as we move from Scorpio to Sagittarius.
Frida.
To reorient the personality to the life of the soul is the first The second, to evidence readiness for initiation. Third, to demonstrate sensitivity to the plan, thus becoming the one-pointed disciple in Sagittarius. These are the three major tests, which are divided into three stages, and upon the path of discipleship, the man may find himself passing into this sign for testing and experiencing 9 times. What is thought? We are told that energy follows thought. Master Jewel Cool's definition of thought across planes, Master Decay defines thought as a dynamic energy that manifests differently across planes, governed by cosmic laws of the evolution of consciousness.
For students of Master DK, it's interesting to note that he takes a time in Treatise on Cosmic Fire toward the end of the book to lay out the rules of magic. And then in a treatise on white magic, lays out the rules of magic, and within those, the rules of thought and the rules of action. So when one thinks about this definition as thought as a dynamic energy that manifests differently across planes, he's giving us this grand view and then inserting like nested rules across this great expanse of teaching that's given. So let's move forward. And thank you, Frida. Let's read some more.
It must never be forgotten that all egos work in group formation and under the direct control of those thinkers who embody the divine logoic thought. The work every aspirant, therefore, seeks to do is to bring the brain consciousness in line with that thought, which reaches him via his own soul consciousness. And in the consummation of this, the divine plan is gradually worked out into manifestation on the physical plane. As each son of God brings the active mind stuff for which he is responsible into such a condition that it becomes responsive to divine thought, then will the plan of the ages be carried to a conclusion. The work of the aspirant to union is to swing the mind stuff gradually and increasingly under the higher impulse and away from the lower vibration, until the responsiveness to the higher becomes a stable condition and the vibratory activity of the lower man fades and dies out.
Can we each have a sense of this gradual swinging of the mind stuff to that higher impulse, that higher vibration, and away from the lower vibration? Do we have a sense in looking at our own lives, at the generational lives in our own experience, and then at humanity? Can we see this higher impulse beginning to take hold? And in some groups, this higher responsiveness becoming that stable condition, and the lower vibratory activity fading away and dying out. Can we note that? Are we beginning to see that when we consider this, the words of Rule 14 for aspirants? Listen, touch, see, apply, know.
Through the etheric body, therefore, circulates energy emanating from some mind. With humanity in the mass, response is made unconsciously to the rulings of the universal mind. This is complicated in our time and age by a growing responsiveness to the mass ideas, called sometimes public opinion, of the rapidly evolving human mentality. Within the human family, are also found those who respond to that inner group of thinkers who, working in mental matter, control from the subjective side of life the emergence of the great plan and the manifestation of divine purpose. This group of thinkers falls into 7 main divisions and is presided over by 3 great lives, or superconscious entities. These 3 are the Manu, the Christ, and the Mahachohan, or Mahachohan. These 3 work primarily through influencing the minds of the adepts and the initiates. These latter in their turn influence the disciples of the world, and these disciples, each in his own place and on his own responsibility, work out their concept of the plan and seek to give expression to it as far as possible. It is therefore, as you can surmise, a process of stepping down rates of vibration until they are sufficiently heavy to affect physical plane matter, and thus make possible the building of organized affects on the physical plane. These disciples have hitherto worked very much alone, except when karmic relationships have revealed them to each other, and telepathic intercommunication has been fundamentally confined to the hierarchy of adepts and initiates, both in and out of incarnation, and to their individual work with their disciples.
When I first read this, what came to me was this idea of how things weigh heavily on the mind. And if we think about our progress through life, those times when things have weighed heavily, it related to this process of stepping down rates of vibration until they're sufficiently heavy to affect the physical plane matter. That this process of thought formation in our own minds and how we gather from our experience and all of our study and then contemplation and meditation, things that weigh heavily enough that they can affect the physical matter and make possible the building of organized effects on the physical plane. So let's just pause and ask yourself, have you had the experience of this experience and thought and coalescing and a cohering of ideas that then could form into something as a plan on the physical plane. So we're recognizing that our ideas about the rules of thought emanate from the concrete mind, and let's attempt to relate our thinking to the soul qualities now seeking expression, because that's what comes forth from discrimination to the higher level. We have this spiritual discernment, and that is moving to a response to group vibration that emanates these soul qualities, not only from us as individuals, but it is emanating these qualities uh, from the groups in which we serve. And it crosses all the ray lines. And as we proceed, we'll probably, in our experience, be able to tune into these qualities as they're expressed in even more groups. So the ray qualities of loyalty, patience, sensitivity, strength, generosity, perseverance, reverence, courage, endurance, quickness of intellect and perception, creativity, inspiration, clear intellect, and soul love do for us bring us together on that greater group level. So these are the qualities of the group soul that begin to shine forth in our experience: compassion, humility, wisdom, tolerance, sympathy, service, sacrifice, and group love that we cannot experience as individuals to the extent that we can as these develop in group formation. And then over time, what we begin to see is this eventual developing synthesis that will create in the coming age what is called the ashram of synthesis, as the hierarchy is externalized in our groups, in our work, in our service. We will gradually see and know this developing synthesis and be able to find it in our experience on the higher level as a synthesis of the rays as they're moving forward and in. And it's interesting if we consider the impact now of the fourth ray of harmony through conflict coming in, because there is this generosity of spirit with that fourth ray that's coming in as harmony moves out of the conflicts. And the other quality of this quickness of intellect and perception as the fourth ray takes a greater hold to influence humanity, the fourth kingdom. So find your individual quality that you know you resonate into life, whatever that is, that higher quality, or maybe three, if we think about the triplicities: personality, soul, and monad, whatever level you want to consider it. Find your qualities, and you can hear them in others. For me, I hear the inspiration of the fifth ray. I see the perseverance of the fifth ray in group. I know the loyalty that I find and the reverence that I find from the sixth ray in group. the courage of the first ray, the strength of the first ray. All of these qualities coming through in a group experience. And then how it creates this higher level of quality within the group. And then aligning with those qualities to be able to then sacrifice into the group, grounded in the group love, to be able to truly experience this tolerance that is developing. For the seventh ray has to develop tolerance. There's some of the third ray has to develop tolerance. The first ray has to develop tolerance. So in bringing all these qualities together and to be able to learn a new level of humility in service is really coming through in terms of what we know in group formation that we truly cannot experience as individuals. Frida, would you move forward for us?
In the Yoga Sutras, the mind is relegated simply to the position of an instrument, of an intermediary, of a sensitive plate, registering either that which pours into it from above or that which affects it from below. It has no personality of its own. It has no life or light of its own, except that which is inherent in all substance and therefore to be found in the atoms which constitute the mind stuff. These latter, being along the same evolutionary line as the rest of the lower nature, swell the tide of material forces which seeks to hold the soul prisoner and constitute the great illusion. The mind, therefore, can be cognized in two directions. First, it can be known, recognized, and seen by the thinker, the soul, on its own plane. And secondly, it can be seen and known as a vehicle of the man on the physical plane. For a long time, man became that with which he identified himself, to the exclusion of the true spiritual man, who can be known, contacted, and obeyed once the mind is relegated into its rightful place as an instrument of knowledge. A physical plane analogy may help here. The eye is one of our major senses that whereby we acquire knowledge, a medium through which we see. We, however, do not make the mistake of regarding the eye itself as a source of light and as that which produces revelation. We know it is an instrument which is responding to certain light vibrations, whereby certain information is conveyed on the physical plane to our brain, that great receiving plate upon the physical plane. To the soul, the mind acts also as an eye or a window through which information comes, but is not itself the source of light or illumination.
Where do you find your vision Do you find it on that point of what is identified as the developing spiritual eye of humanity? One of the 7 centers within the head center. And how are you and how are we beginning to connect our own brain capacity to take knowledge and create a vision into this greater, expansive, spiritual eye of humanity that is developing, and relate it to then the ajna center of the planet, the new group of world servers. And how are our groups doing this? For the Ajna Center, the new group of world servers, many now calling this the World Serving Group, which has representatives from all the rays, all the ashrams, all the connected ray lives, creating this channel of illumination, the Antakarana reaching up to and through. It's an interesting question. I'm going to pause right now and let's have some thoughts. So we're remembering that the purpose for which humanity exists, the objective before the group of world mystics and workers. And I would just like to remind us all that in in Letters on Occult Meditation, DK says our goal is to become both the mystic and the occultist. It's that dualism that's resolved. And the ideals set before the individual aspirant, these ideals are the same as in our individual meditation. So in group, the achieving of that focused attention and mental quiet, wherein reality can be contacted, the true and the beautiful are registered, divine purpose can be recorded, and it becomes possible to transmit to the phenomenal form upon the physical plane the needed energy, whereby the subjective realization can be materialized. Ben, would you read, please?
In all occult work in mental matter, which has to manifest upon the physical plane, and thus achieve objectivity, man has to work it as a human. This infers the ability, therefore, of the threefold lower man to be subordinated to the ego or soul, so that the dynamic will of the ego or soul may be imposed upon the physical brain. The method of the man or woman on the physical plane who is engaged in conscious work in mental matter is to be considered in 2 divisions. First, the initial process of alignment with the ego, so that the plan, purpose, and method of achievement may be impressed upon the physical brain. And then a secondary process in which the man or woman, using the physical brain consciously, proceeds to carry out the plan, construct through will and purpose the necessitated form. and then having built and energized the form, to keep her eye upon it. This is stating occultly the great truth back of all processes of energizing. For occultly understood, the eye of the soul, the spiritual eye, is that which brings power to its servant, the thought form. Scientists are becoming interested in the power of the human eye, and that faculty of control and of recognition, which is everywhere seen as existing, will have its scientific and occult explanation when it is studied as an instrument of initiatory energy.
So, Ben, we start with the rules.
Rule 1. View the world of thought and separate the false out of the true.
Consider the causal body, your causal body, as a channel developing as the prana and utilizing those 5 knowledge petals or vortices in group formation on that higher level of spiritual discernment as you view the world of thought and separate the false out of the true. Many of us are doing that now in relation to not only our group work, but in our use of artificial intelligence and the human emerging intelligence utterings that are coming forward, separating the false out of the true, using that higher level of spiritual discernment. Oh, sorry, I've got to go back to rule 2. Then,
Rule 2. Learn the meaning of illusion, and in its midst locate the golden thread of truth.
does this rule engage the 5 sacrifice petals, the vortices of the causal body? Building the antakarana, and relating to the group antakarana, this channel, this great channel, breathing in and breathing out, divine circulatory flow, so that we learn the meaning of illusion and we connect to this golden thread of truth. Rule 3, Ben.
Control the body of emotion For the waves that rise upon the stormy seas of life engulf the swimmer, shut out the sun, and render all plans futile.
What are we doing in our lives, in our group lives, to help serve humanity? Humanity learning to control the body of emotion, learning to control the stormy seas, so that humanity is not engulfed, so that humanity does not shut out the sun and render all plans futile. What are we engaging in? How are we engaging these great vortices, the love petals of the egoic lotus, building the antakarana, opening the channel as individuals in group formation, creating that clear, pure reason of the love petals. Knowledge, love, love, knowledge, love, 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 sacrifice, sacrifice, love. Lifting the group soul life to the level of response to group vibration. Using pure reason, the triple light, light of the brain, the light of the soul, and the higher light to illumine soul consciousness in more individual sparks of humanity. The new group of world servers serving as the rudder, the stabilizing force in these stormy seas of life. Catherine.
4. Discover that thou hast a mind and learn its dual use. As we enter on the consideration of the dual life of the initiatory process, I would call your attention to the wording used. and particularly to its significance in reference to the initiatory process. This deals, as we shall see, not with the effort of the disciple to live simultaneously the life of the spiritual world and the practical life of physical plane service, but entirely with the preparation of the disciple for initiation and therefore with his mental life and attitudes. Raise and initiations.
So we're reminded again that we have to take this to a higher level in order to fully understand this rule. The duality, we're discovering that we have a higher mind, and we're learning the dual use of that higher mind. So it is our mental life and attitudes. So how do we become indifferent to our own thoughts? Divinely indifferent to our own ideas, our own interpretations, and truly discern the thoughts that are inspired by the soul. Those thoughts that lead along the path of initiation to what we know is to be group initiation in the future. That is the plan for humanity. An attitude of indifference to our own thoughts. We'll come back to these questions as we move forward in the coming weeks.
We recognize our group and all other similar groups as parts of a worldwide spiritual movement, which, when it reaches momentum, results in unity for all. A super organization which emphasizes unity is the last thing to be desired. A multiplicity of living organisms held loosely together by cooperation, constant communication, and possessing identity of goal and of purpose. This is what the world needs today. Om Mani Padme Hum.
Has been expressed. Let's pause and gather how we are achieving this with the multiplicity of living organisms that we are part of through our cooperation, our constant communication, and this identification of the goal and purpose that we share with the groups in which we are currently working. Thank you for sharing how we're experiencing this in our in our groups, and it is moving beyond what we have previously known. Catherine.
Rule 5. Concentrate the thinking principle and be the master of thy mental world. Rule 6. Learn that the thinker and his thought, and that which is the means of thought, are diverse in their nature, yet one in ultimate reality.
As this relates so greatly to the multiplicity of groups, let's pause the recording and gather some thoughts from our group here today. So, with that example of this diversity and overcoming any barriers that we have to it, let us consider it in this context that these groups that are unknown to us, when we learn of their work and begin to hear the echoes of that work as a resonance for ourselves, we act as the thinker and learn that it is not right to prostitute thy thought to the base use of separative desire. So we are experiencing the expression of these various high-level attitudes toward thinking, and we don't take it into our own thought pattern on our desire, which is a separative way, and we listen to it through the resonance of the love petals of the egoic lotus. We listen and act through those dimensions of love. Love, knowledge, knowledge, love, love, knowledge, love, 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 sacrifice, and sacrifice, love on a level of pure reason without any separative experience. To embrace and ride on those gift waves. Which takes us to this first rule of action, that it's essential that there should be an endeavor to arrive at absolute purity of motive. Absolute purity of motive in the listening. Absolute purity of motive in the touching. Absolute purity of motive in the seeing. Absolute purity of motive in the applying, so that there is absolute purity of motive in the knowing as aspirants. And when we have that, then in thought, we can rise to the level of the first word for disciples and initiates, which is to know.
Rule 8, for the rules of thought. The energy of thought is for the good of all and for the furtherance of the plan of God. Use it not, therefore, for thy selfish ends. Rule 9. Before a thought form is by thee constructed, vision its purpose, ascertain its goal, and verify the motive.
So let us, in relation to motive, consider the sacrifice petals, the vortices, the entry points in the egoic lotus. Knowledge sacrifice, love sacrifice, sacrifice knowledge, sacrifice love, sacrifice sacrifice. That takes us through 9 petals of the egoic lotus, which can relate to the 9 of Scorpio, the 9 heads of the Hydra, the 9 lives of testing for humanity as the world disciple. So as we construct thought forms, as we vision the purpose, as we ascertain the goal, we continuously verify the motive, which is to serve the plan, and to rise to the level of the new group of world servers. And yet, in this rule, he cautions us again. For thee, the aspirant on the way of life, the way of conscious building is not yet the goal. The work of cleaning out the atmosphere of thought, of barring fast the doors of thought to pain and hate, to fear and jealousy, and low desire, must first precede the conscious work of building. See to thy aura, O traveler on the way. So truly conquering the 18 subplanes. I have a body, I am not my body. I have emotions, I am not my emotions. I have a mind, I am not my mind. As a group, we have a body, we are not that body. As a group, we have emotions, we are not those emotions. As a group, we have a mind, we are not that mind. The souls of all are one, and we are one with them. We seek to love, not hate. We seek to serve and not exact due service. We seek to heal, not hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form and life and all events, and bring to light the love that underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate, and outer cleavages be gone. Let love prevail. Let all people love. Build the channel. Unify with the channel of all. The great Antakarana that lifts us up connects us through the new group of world servers to the hierarchy. So control is achieved by the directing power of light energy onto the physical plane, and Maya is devitalized. Control is achieved by the dissipating potency of distributed, radiating light. Glamours are dissipated on the astral field. Control is achieved by dispelling through focused light. Illusions are dispelled through the technique of the presence on the mental plane. Rule 11, watch close the gates of thought, sentinel desire, cast out all fear, all hate, all greed. Look out and up. How have we done as a group and in our multiplicity of groups from Scorpio as we move into this week the energies of Sagittarius?
May the, may the holy ones whose disciple I am show me the light I seek. Give me the strong aid of their compassion and their wisdom. There is a peace which passes understanding. It abides in the hearts of those who live in the eternal. There is a power which makes all things new. It lives and moves in those who know the self as one. May that peace brood over us, that power uplift us, till we stand where the one initiator is invoked, till we see his star shine forth.
Gratitude, and we'll continue next week with the remainder of the rules of thought and rule 2, the rule of action that takes us into the silence.